What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast, the podcast where I interview people about the best shows that they have ever seen in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Herdt, and we're taking a little bit of a break here on the Best Show Ever podcast. We're not quite getting the 2 episodes out a week like we usually do. There is construction going on in front of my house, behind my house. My landlords who live behind me are building an ADU behind us, and then on the street in front of us, they are fully tearing it apart and digging into the ground, drilling. There's drilling, sawing, hammering, kind of at all times, especially during the week. It's made it very difficult to know exactly when I can record these episodes. I've had to reschedule a bunch, but one that we had got in the can, on the books, got it done was the one that you're listening to right now with my friend Caleb Doyle. Caleb and I knew each other back in Chicago doing comedy in the improv scene together. Caleb was on an improv team that won this show called Cage Match. It was at IO Theater. 2 improv teams would show up. There'd be a crowd, and the crowd would vote on whoever would win every week, and then whoever won got to stay, and that's how you kind of got to like build a run at one of Chicago's famed improv theaters. And I think Caleb's team had like the record for the longest run ever, and that's how I got introduced to him. That's how I knew who he was originally in Chicago. But now we kind of both find ourselves in the music world a little bit more. I'm joking about music a bunch these days, and he is writing about music. And specifically new music. If you are looking to learn about new music, new releases that are happening, Caleb writes about them in his Substack and on his blog Nightswimming. He has now written music for Uproxx. He's written music exclusively over the last few years here, and has really become a huge pro at it. I've always loved talking about music with Caleb. He's always had a deep musical well of knowledge. Seems like any artist that you bring up, Caleb can kind of go deep on. But he was a big Deadhead in our time together. We would see each other at Dead & Co shows at Wrigley Field and such and whatever. And he's a huge fan of the band. We talk about how his Instagram handle used to be the Levon Helm Fan Club. That was his Instagram handle for the longest time. If you want to follow him now, it's Classic Doyle. And that is where you can find the Nightswimming Substack and his music blog. I'll get out of the way of this intro here. Caleb is a fantastic guy. This is an excellent conversation about a whole bunch of different types of music. We do talk about Billy Strings and the Dead. We talk about Fish a little bit. And he is just an excellent interview. So enjoy this chat that I had with my buddy Caleb Doyle of Nightswimming. But first, enjoy a little bit of music from Loon.
Yo.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, dude. Thanks for doing this on a Saturday.
Oh, thanks for having me. No, it was perfect time. I hung up all this. I just moved.
Yeah, to KC.
So all this stuff back here. I was like, let me hang this up before this podcast.
You look like a music guy. You look like you know about music just based off the framed music stuff.
It's giving music writer in a big way. If I was better, I'd have a bookshelf full of like Jeff Tweedy's autobiography and all that shit.
Picture of you and Eddie Van Halen.
God, I wish. How's the signal for me? I'm in the back of the house and it can get a little choppy sometimes.
It's good. Looks like you're pretty much already uploaded almost. It kind of like loads as we're talking here. I record from the jump, and so I'll edit around all this.
Cool.
But you're sounding good, looking good.
Okay.
Lit well.
If it gets weird, let me know. I'll to the back or the front.
Yeah, no, you're all good, man.
Love the Bears hat also.
Yeah.
Go Bears.
Just being hopeful.
Hey, I don't know when we're gonna get protection for the quarterback. I say I'm like straddle the fence of Chiefs and Bears, but if they're ever going to protect the quarterback, I don't know, but I think the Bears had a great draft.
Me too, dude. Every year I think this. Every year there's a couple free agency guys where I'm like, dude, that's a piece right there. That's a guy.
Hey, I got to tell you, Luther Burden,
dude,
I've been watching him for years.
That's a piece. I mean,
MIZ, that's a piece.
this is, I say this all the time, but this is kind of the best time of year to be a Bears fan. It's just all hope. It's the off season.
It's the hope. It's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, it's great. But you know, we got the Pope is from Chicago now, so at least that's got to help.
Dude,
that's got to help something.
Chicago Pope. Whoever would have expected in the world that Chicago Pope would be a thing,
and that people would just be stoked beyond belief.
So excited.
It could not be. I don't remember this much excitement for Obama being from Chicago.
No, and the memes are really great. I mean, just the one that's like a person's Twitter drafts, and it's like, duh prayers, duh prayers, duh prayers, like over and over again.
Like, what's the right one, man? Yeah, the internet was good this weekend for Chicago stuff. This has been great so far. But man, I'm loving that you've not now. I mean, I've always known you as someone who likes music, but are someone who is kind of in the music space. Found yourself comedy writer guy who's now writing and talking about music.
Yeah. I just at some point kind of decided or realized that, you know, I had been listening to like exclusively Steely Dan and The Dead for like a couple years. And, you know, this was in my late 20s, a couple year and a half ago or so. And I was like, I don't know what's good that's new.
Yeah.
So I like committed myself to learning what's new, what's coming out. And I was like, I think the best way to do that is just for me to just write about it. And maybe people will read it. Maybe they'll hear things that they like too. That's kind of the idea of the whole blog. It's not critical writing. I don't really care to write about stuff that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
I like to write about stuff I like, and maybe the people who read it will like it as well.
What are you listening for? What do you like to hear out of something that you've never heard before? Like, what catches your ear on new stuff?
There's kind of an it factor, you know, kind of the hard to describe things, but, you know, good production. I'm always, you know, I have certain genres that I sort of traffic in, although what's genre in today's world?
Yeah.
But I'm always, you know, if something is cosmic country, alt country, love that kind of stuff, indie rock, that sort of stuff. So I'm really interested in the stories of bands, where they come from.
Big time.
You know, how that's represented in their music. You know, like, I feel like Chicago, for instance, like you can just hear a Chicago band.
Big time.
You can hear Chicago in the music somehow. So I'm interested in the story and kind of who the people are, and love polished production, but also love something that's gritty. Love, like, you know, things that are pleasant to the ear. I haven't really cracked the nut on like hardcore music. I have a lot of friends who are hardcore heads who go to shows where they beat each other up and get beat up, and
yeah, right.
I respect that those guys do that, but it's not something that's pleasing to me necessarily.
Sometimes people will ask, like, or they'll bring up the conversation of like, what is funny, or like, what is funny to you, or what do you find funny? Do you think it's harder to kind of pin down what you like musically than it is to be like, that's something that's funny and that's something that's not?
I think it's kind of the same. It's sort of like, you know it when you see it, and everybody's is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that turns your gears. I forget whether it was a Supreme Court case or if it was Tipper Gore talking about obscenity in music, but at some point in a court proceeding, they're trying to define what obscenity is. Like, what does obscenity actually mean?
Yeah.
And they landed on basically, you know it when you see it. Like, you know when you see obscenity that's something obscene. I feel like that's the same for music and for comedy. You know, some, especially with comedy, you know, everybody laughs at something different, and there's plenty of things like, you know, the Tim Robinson school of comedy, the I Think You Should Leave, and the Conor O'Malley's and all those type of guys.
Yeah.
Are contemporaries,
right?
By the way,
truly.
that some people just, it does not click for them in any
Right.
way, but they think that Kill Tony is hilarious,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I try not to crap on I try not to yuck too many yums, but I like to think I have taste. I think that's the thing about taste is there's not really good taste or bad taste. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, agreed. Totally 100% agreed.
It's that discernment that's like you can recognize when something is good. And I can recognize music that's good even if it isn't necessarily for me. That's double true in the jam band world. There are a lot of bands, a lot of styles of jam music that I'm like, it's not really for me, but I recognize that it's great. And there are sometimes little moments, Goose is a great example. Not necessarily for me. I've heard a couple versions of Time to Flee that I'm like, well, they're onto something
Yeah.
here. So, I try to keep an open mind and an open heart when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, taste is it's like that. It's a thing that's not super definable, but it's also very, very like you just know something that's good when you see it. There's things that are automatic, or there's things that you kind of do need to like get all the context for to let it grow on you. You need to know that this band is from Baltimore and that actually they just broke, and they're this young group, or maybe it's this artist that's been around forever that just kind of broke, or like context is super important, but there are sometimes things that just cut through. Doesn't matter where this person's from or what's going on with their context.
Yeah, and with jam music specifically, it's like a lot of these bands play such diverse music that some people listen to a Dark Star or a Playing in the Band and are totally turned off by the 8 minutes in the middle that's just completely squinking and squonking and like totally discordant. And then there's other guys that are like, oh, I'm going to the show hoping that they will completely collapse into just like, rubbing a microphone stand on their guitar and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. And that's like even like going back to the comedy thing, like in our time in Chicago, it was there was so many people that were so funny. So you would like look around at a room of people and be like, dude, everyone in this room is so talented. Or you would just see, you would go to like 8 shows in a row where you're like, I don't know what the fuck is going on in this scene right now. Like where all that just missed. I don't know. There's just, it's hard to like put your finger on what you like, but it's cool to grow through things and not grow past the Dead or Steely Dan. Like those are foundational building blocks of things that you like, but now to see who's doing new things is a cool pursuit. Is a very cool and noble pursuit, and a lot of people do it critically just to put out like, this is what I liked from this is a helpful thing.
Yeah, I think it has connected me to the world in a lot of ways. I'm merely 31 years old, but that feels old.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially when you're talking about like the music scene. So it has connected me in a way to, hey, these 22-year-olds out of Fishers, Indiana are making this like banging, 90s alternative adjacent music, and this is what they're singing about, and this is what they're feeling, and it does connect me in a way, and it's good. I'm in a Discord group with a bunch of other music writers, and they have different perspectives. They have things that they get excited about that I've never, there will be a day where everybody's popping off about, holy shit, new Gunk album, whole new Gunk. Wow, we haven't heard from Gunk in 10 years. And I'm like, who the fuck is Gunk?
Right.
But I realize that I've missed out on so much, over the years. And so it's caused me to kind of go back and dive into some of those things as well.
It's good. It's a good thing. And for all of the people on this podcast who are jam band listeners, specifically, it's good. It's a good thing.
Open up your horizons a little bit.
Good.
If a band plays a song for 3.5 minutes only, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
That can be good.
Can be very good. Open your horizons. You'll never know what you might find.
Yeah, man. Well, and I can talk to you about reviewing music in that way all day. We're going to talk about reviewing music in a different way. Live shows that you have seen as a concert goer, and it's hard to pick a good one, hard to pick a best one. But we can start with the first one. What's the first concert you ever saw in your life?
Well, I think I'm a fan of the show, so I've listened to a fair amount of
Hell yeah.
episodes, and I always think it's funny that people often list the literal first concert they went to, and then also like, this is the first concert I chose to go
Yeah.
to, because those are usually different.
Those are different things.
So my very first concert was Brooks and Dunn with Big and Rich.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, brother. At the UMB Bank Pavilion, as it was called at the time, though it is commonly known as Riverport, home of the Riverport Gin from Fish. And I don't remember too much about that concert, but I remember that it was on September 11th, like 2005 or something. So it was fresh.
Yeah.
It was freshly still, never forget time.
And Big and Rich was ringing the bell.
You know what? I've got to say, if you go back and listen to that first Big and Rich record, Horse of a Different Color, I believe it's called, it holds up.
Yeah.
It's good country music. The non-single stuff outside of Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy is actually very good, and it's an album that I revisit from time to time.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a rootin' tootin' time from what I remember as a 9-year-old.
Of course.
But then my first concert that I chose to go to, or an early one that I can remember, was Ben Folds at the Pageant.
Oh yeah.
Ben Folds is one of the artists I've seen the most after the Dead, Dead adjacent groups. But this was on near my 17th birthday, and the Pageant in St. Louis is one of the best music venues in the nation. Biased, of course, because I was born and raised in St. Louis, but
right.
It was he was on the Way to Normal tour, and it was him and this really tight band. And if you haven't seen Ben Folds, he's extremely entertaining, very talented piano player, has a lot of fun. It's just a fun show. And he's got a song called Still Fighting It, which is about, everybody knows it sucks to grow up, is kind of the refrain. And I was about to turn 17, and I yelled out that it was about to be my 17th birthday and that it does suck to grow up. And Ben responded, "You have no idea." And then he launched into Still Fighting It, which was a fun little moment I had. And that was like, woke up something in me where I was like, oh, this is a real guy, But that was very memorable as like a first kind of on your own with friends, you hop in the 1997 Honda Civic and you go to the big city, and so that was fun.
Yeah, and it's not that going to a show with your parents you weren't pumped for, but this is your music now. When you go to that Ben Folds show, this is like one of the first things that you love for you, that you found in your generation.
Yeah, and my mom, I credit her with most of my music taste, or at least getting into music. She grew up in the 80s, so she was Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, and then the 90s, Gin Blossoms, and all that kind of Blues Traveler.
Yeah, dude.
She had a bit of a jam adjacent, touch to her music, but it definitely set me on the right path of listening to good music and knowing what good music was about. She saw Jerry, which
Hetty.
I'll never forget.
Mom's Hetty.
Yeah. Yeah, but she definitely set me on the right path, and Ben Folds was kind of one of those early things that I definitely got and kind of related it to, she was a big Billy Joel fan.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's kind of our Billy Joel in a way.
Big time. Oh, and like, just major fun piano songs. Major songs that are, like you said, a lot of them are about growing up, or they're just fun and, fun to pass along to your friends. Like passing along Ben Folds songs was definitely something that I was doing in those days, and so.
Oh, the number of times I made a mix CD for a crush of mine in high school and put The Luckiest or one of his other, slow, sad bastard songs on there. I think he has referred to his music as punk rock for pussies
Fuck
in
yeah.
several
Oh,
interviews,
fucking, I loved
which is
it. Damn
like,
it. Yep.
yeah, me too. Hey, me too, brother. I was in my room doing the, when he stands up and he rocks that leg
Yeah.
back. I would do that. I'd do that on the.
Fuck yeah. Dude, great first show. And like
Great first show. It was freezing cold. It was in January. January. Got the set list here. January 30th, 2011. Long show. 26 songs. And we met him outside the pageant afterwards.
Oh, wow.
We like stood. That's a thing you could definitely do when you were a kid. You were like, oh yeah, if we're gonna be here, let's stay up late.
Yeah.
And let me see if I still have this. If you can get a glimpse of it.
You gotta meet the guy. Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
This is me and my buddy Danny Murdoch.
Yes.
And this was a hall pass for my high school. It was the only thing I had, but it says Happy 17th, and then he signed it. And
that's good scrapbooking,
yeah, that's great. And that's something you could definitely do when you're young. Still, is like, we're gonna be annoying. We're gonna hang out up at the venue and see if they'll come out and talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, dude. Those guys. Ben Folds, by the time 2011 rolls around, he's been famous for a while. It's not like this is like his first tour, and it's like amazing that people love him. But like,
oh yeah,
people were fans of music as well. They remember what it's like to all get together on your 17th birthday and go to a show and want to meet the fucking band afterwards. Yeah, of course, dude.
He's big on fan service too. I mean, he very famously does the paper airplane request shows where they pass out sheets of paper and Sharpies at the beginning of the show. You can write a request and literally sail it up onto the stage, which is very fan servicey but very fun as
sick.
well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing. That sounds like you said, lit a fire in you. Have you seen any shows that weren't so inspiring? Maybe like a worst show ever?
You gave me the prompt of worst show, and going along with my night swimming blog philosophy of no hate, no criticism. There's a couple that I thought of, but I'm like, maybe I don't want to knock young up and coming indies. So I thought one thing that I would talk about is chompers.
Yeah, please.
I know we've got a strict no chomping policy from this show for sure.
I'd prefer it.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up at the show, please.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah, so I think those are the moments there's something in me where I can't focus.
Yeah, dude.
If people are having anywhere near me having a conversation, can't focus. And I've definitely shushed some people. There was St. Louis Dead and Company 2023.
Yeah.
They started playing Eyes of the World, which is one of my favorite all-time Dead jams. And in 2023, some people will remember, they were doing that song so well. They were really like digging in on that song. That's when they would do verse John solo, verse Jeff solo, verse O'Teal solo. They were like really digging in and drawing that song out. And
this was the last tour we were ever going to see them, if you remember.
Exactly. Exactly. And in my hometown. So they come back from set break and they start off Eyes of the World, and I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
And two drunk guys about 10 feet away from me just talking about something that happened at the office or something. And I'm like behind them, and I just go, no! Screaming at them, no! And they finally like look at me, and I just go, and they're like, all right, dude. I don't care. I'll look like the asshole in those moments. I get it, man. If you want to lean over, here's what's acceptable to say, especially when there's a jam going on. Number one, holy shit, they're ripping.
Go for it.
If you want to say it even quietly to your buddy, holy shit, they're
Please.
ripping. 2, is that a jazz master? Because there's times where I see somebody on stage and I'm like, are they playing a jazz master? And I have to call it out.
Yeah.
They're a jazz master?
Go ahead.
So, whisper to your friend. One tactic you should know is if you wrap your hand around your friend's head and you plug their far ear, it's easy for them to hear you if you kind of whisper loudly in their ear.
Remove sound from one. Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
It's a little bit intimate, but
whatever. What are we doing here?
That's one thing. So for worst show, I've seen some that I left early. I've definitely left some shows early, but for me, I'll say anytime that my buzz was ruined by chompers, those always rank up there. But it's that the moment passes and then you get right back into it.
I've been trying to do a better job of especially if it's a GA, smaller place, and people are chomping near me. I just try to go somewhere else. Whatever. I'm not going to try to debate you on whether or not you should be talking at the show, because now we're going to create more. But when you're just in your seat, or it's something that you paid a lot of money for, or it's something that's especially very special to you, man, you just spend way more time thinking about it than they do. They're in there.
Yeah.
You just are sitting there thinking about how you're gonna
don't let the bastards win kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not thinking about it, but I'm totally hyper focused on them talking.
And it's usually drunk people. It's hard to get through to someone who's fucking trash too, because then it's hey man, please be quiet. And then they're like, dude, I'm so sorry. And you're like, it's okay. It's just now we're talking. He's like, dude, seriously.
Now we're talking about chomping.
What's your name, dude? I'm like, oh my fucking God.
Oh, dude. Hey, man. My bad. Hey.
Come here, dude.
My bad. Come here,
You
dude.
from around here?
You from here?
You golf? I'm just fuck.
Yeah. I feel like it's also, I don't know if this is a placebo thing, or maybe that's not the right use of the word, but people have been saying they've noticed it more post-COVID.
Mm.
And I think that there is maybe some truth to that, although it's been so long, not that it's over, obviously it's still going on, but the bulk of the people staying inside thing. And I have certainly noticed that at movie theaters. I don't know if you often go to a movie theater, but the amount of people just in the last couple of years who will just have full volume conversations or text with their phone on bright during a movie, I'm like, it's 2.5 hours max that we're just all having this. I think for me, chomping and being on the phone and whatever, it all goes back to, sure, you're ruining my fun a little bit, but ultimately what it is for me, I think, is I want you to have the experience that you paid for.
Yeah.
And I want us to have a communal experience. I want us all to feel like we're doing this thing together. We're experiencing this thing. Truly, there are moments of live music where it's like alchemy. They are synthesizing something in front of us, and we could all be a part of this moment that's never happened before and never going to happen again. And you are talking about, how your neighbor knocked over your trash cans with his Ford Explorer. And it's you're missing out. I just feel, I don't know, I feel a duty to be hey, you should be getting in on this experience,
Oh, yeah. And I spend a lot of times at shows, especially ones that I, like I said, are very special to me. I usually have some portion of the show where I'm thinking about all of the people who I would love to be there. And so if you're chatting at the show, I'm like, dude, I know a couple people who would take those seats in a heartbeat and not do what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do, I understand where people get a free ticket or whatever, or they're, they don't really care to be there. I think that's kind of what turned me off in a way of wanting to go to the Sphere,
mm-hmm.
because I heard through the grapevine that, it's an attraction in Vegas now.
Dude.
If you're just visiting Vegas, all of the concierge will recommend that you go see this show at the Sphere. So it's people that have no idea what's going on. They don't know who Bob Weir is.
That was my experience. The people who sat behind me, they showed up like halfway through the first set. They were fucking hammered, and they literally were saying stuff like, "I can't believe we just bought tickets to this. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is why." Like just talking about how crazy it is that they would even do that. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm the idiot that traveled here expecting like silence.
Turn around and you're like, listen. A young 15-year-old boy in Palo Alto, California, back in 1965, dropped out of high school and started playing with a rock and roll band. And he's been on the road ever since. That young man is pouring his life out for you right now, down there. And you're fucking talking.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
I want to get sanctimonious about it, but, ultimately it's like, I want you to have this experience.
I hit her. At one point I was like, please, can you it's been so long that we haven't said something, and I'm begging you to please stop talking. And she's like, you love this. Look at you. How old are you? That's amazing.
This is cute.
You really cute. Love this. And I was just like, oh my God. The worst possible. Whatever, man. That
patronize.
We should talk about how people shouldn't talk about shows, but there are good shows that you have seen that we are going to get to now. It's hard to pick your best show ever. So do you have any honorable mentions that you'd be remiss if you didn't bring them up on the show today?
I do. I've got 3. I'm gonna rip through them with relative speed.
Oh yeah.
2 of them I think are recency bias, but the best show ever fans will allow me the recency bias.
For sure.
First one worth mentioning, April 4th of this year, saw Jack White at the Uptown in Kansas City, and we showed up about an hour and a half early to get in line because it was GA. He's on this tour where he's playing much smaller venues. This was like a 1,600 capacity theater in Kansas City, and we were like 3 rows from the barricade probably. And this was my first time seeing Jack White live. I've been a fan of him and the White Stripes for many, many years. I turned on Icky Thump, or it was like an iTunes free download that week.
Definitely.
I think. And I remember hearing the title track of Icky Thump for the first time and feeling like I was dying. Being like, oh my God. Like, I imagine it's what our dads felt like the first time they put on Led Zeppelin 1 and it opens with Good Times, Bad Times.
Yeah.
It's like that profound.
That opening riff.
So anyway.
Whoa. Yeah.
Whoa, I'm scared. Yeah. Yeah, that's how Icky Thump felt. So, yeah, we were so close, and it's one of those moments, and I'll talk about this again, but one of those moments where the act that you're seeing comes out on stage and you go, holy shit, that's him.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that's him. And his band is so cool. He's got a trio, bass, drums, and like a keyboard, synth kind of guy. And they all look like members of Iggy Pop and the Stooges. It's like the drummer's got like a tight bowl haircut, and the keyboard guy has like long hair and didn't take his sunglasses off the entire show.
Yes, dude.
And the bass player looks like a nose tackle for the Packers back in the 80s. Just like a real stout guy with like a t-shirt on. And it's just like the baddest ass looking group of guys.
The rock band.
And then, yeah, truly a rock band. And then Jack comes out and it's honest to God of vampires in front of you.
1,000%.
And you're like, holy shit, that's him. And he was, right in front of us. So that was amazing, and obviously he blows it out every single night. Just, played a long show, played the hits, but also some deep cuts. Fucked around with like a guitar that looked like Robert Johnson probably owned it in 1915 or whatever. Amazing.
Yeah, he is one of the true legends of our generation. I mean, one of
Oh yeah,
You don't have to say the thing like one of the last true rockers anymore. I think rock and roll is like totally fine and doing okay, but he is. There's not a lot of rock stars anymore, and he is a fucking bona fide rock star, dude. Yeah,
truly, truly transcends generations too. I mean, I know all the old rock heads love Jack White and
definitely.
young kids, and he's apparently a good guy to work with. Like SNL loves working with him, and he's always doing like benefit shows and stuff. So good for him. When the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame got announced, that was one where I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
no
no
brainer, of
brainer,
course.
absolute should be in the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame rocker
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
big way.
As should Fish.
As should
Should Fish,
fish.
frankly.
As should fish.
Look, if you're gonna hang the hot dog in the lobby of the museum, you gotta put them in the museum.
We're talking about rock bands here. What are we doing?
We're talking about rock bands.
That's all they fucking do.
Anyway,
They probably got judged
sickening.
off their like their studio albums that are just ass. I love them. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I love you boys. Just you.
Sorry,
You want to talk
guys.
about bad production?
Go
No,
listen to
there's some good
that.
stuff.
Go listen to that Gorge '98 Reba and tell me that Fish doesn't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of
What are we
Fame.
doing here?
What are we
I
doing?
also think like maybe
Well, a lot of people said, oh, you know, it's an outdated institution. It's favoritism. It's corporate, which is true. But those are the type of things that you say when you don't get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
exactly. It's yeah.
It's
It doesn't
like,
even fucking matter, dude.
oh, who cares?
Fucking
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, Cleveland, Ohio, sick.
it's
Yeah.
bullshit.
Okay. Yeah. My second of the honorable mentions is from August 21st of 2024. I went by myself back to good old Riverport to see the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, dude.
Love Smashing Pumpkins. Have been one of my favorites since I was a kid. One of my mom's favorites. I keep trying to move out of the way of this sunbeam. Anyway, this was a true example of them walking out on stage and me going, "Holy shit, that's them!" Like, holy shit, that is James Iha and Billy Corgan. I can't believe
Yeah,
it.
man.
And I think on this tour specifically, I don't know. Billy Corgan has gotten a reputation as an asshole for years.
sure.
You know, that whole like mid 2000s period, he very famously like wouldn't play the hits at shows, and I think he probably is still an asshole. But to me, he seemed softened up. He was very cool with the crowd. They played all the hits. They had a good time. The greatest moment was my favorite Smashing Pumpkins song is Mayonnaise. He probably
Yeah.
invented the genre shoegaze
Yeah.
in that one song. Huge, big song, and I was like, damn, they don't always play it, but I would love if they played it. Midway through the show, they launch into Mayonnaise. Billy Corgan ripped on his guitar so hard that he blew his entire cabinet, like his entire
Fuck
amp
yeah,
cabinet.
dude.
After that song, he was like trying to strum and was like, what's going on? And he had techs coming out and trying to like do a quick switch on the. Anyway, it turned into what was like between 18 and 22 minutes of his techs trying to work on his cabinet. So he gets out an acoustic guitar, starts playing Landslide, their famous cover of Fleetwood Mac's Landslide.
Yeah.
And then somebody in the front yelled out Rocket, and James Iha started playing Rocket on acoustic, and they just did it acoustic. And like,
Very sick.
there was a lot of them goofing around and trying to fill time, but like, if you can imagine 18 or 19 minutes of kind of dead time at a concert was pretty wild. But that's like one of those singular experiences that you don't always get.
Yeah, I think like the part of the rock experience, or like the quintessential rock and roll experience, kind of feels like it's fallen apart at the seams at every moment. Like that's what we like about a Grateful Dead show, or like what we like about the history of the Grateful Dead, is it felt like they were falling apart at the seams as it was happening all the time. And so you like that, and we know that from doing improv and all that kind of stuff, is that's when stuff comes alive, is when everything is broken and you have to like honestly just respond to what's going on,
figure it out.
Yeah, you get a real moment with that band. That's sick.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was cool. I was by myself. I will go to shows relatively often by myself, but it's typically like DIY shows at small
Yeah.
venues, that kind of thing, like in the neighborhood. I've never gone out to Riverport, the big shed, out in the middle of Maryland Heights, Missouri, by myself. But it was like a uncharacteristically cool August night. And the greatest thing was when I knew they were going to do the encore, I walked to the back just to see what the encore was going to be, and they started playing Zero, and I was like, okay, I don't know. So then I just left. One of the great things about going to shows by yourself is you can just leave,
Yep.
and I got in my car and drove away. I didn't have to sit in traffic. It was amazing.
Oh man! And then the next time you go to a show with like 5 or 6 people, and everyone's like, "Wait, should we leave when? And then where are we gonna go to the bathroom?" Or
Oh, I gotta pee.
like,
I gotta piss.
I'm just going to shows by myself, dude.
And everybody trying to leave the parking lot at the same time.
Yeah, dude.
People are trying to get balloons.
Yeah, dude.
Balloons at the Smashing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know that the mafia pulls up to the Smashing Pumpkin show in St. Louis.
They did not. It was mostly sad bastards on like Lexapro.
Yeah,
was pretty much the crowd.
A lot of hands in pockets on the way back to the car.
A lot of zip hoodies. A lot of zip hoodies.
You never seen so many zip hoodies.
Never seen so many zip hoodies. And then my last honorable mention, which I saved for last because I think you'll like this one. June 16th, 2022 at St. Louis Music Park. Billy Strings, the first time I saw Billy Strings.
Dude.
I have been saying this. I'll say it to anyone who will listen. If he comes within an hour of you, go.
You have no option.
Even if you haven't heard him, you don't really care about country music or bluegrass or anything like that, you have to go. And I do. The way I felt when they started playing, after they got into it for a bit, I really kept thinking, I think this is how people felt when they saw Jerry Garcia.
Yeah.
Not comparing talent, nobody get mad at me in the comments. Just in the way that this guy is doing something that truly no one else in the world can do.
Yeah.
Like, I think he is one of the greatest touring musicians doing it right now.
Yeah. I don't think that there's there's not a lot of musicians that would argue with you about that. There's not a lot of touring musicians today that would argue with you about that.
No, I mean, he has the immediate respect of his whole genre, his whole side of the industry. All the bluegrass and country guys, like, immediately recognized his talent.
Yeah.
They opened with a, 18-minute Turmoil in Tinfoil. Just insane. By the way, if any of the Best Show Ever universe has a good tape of this, I have not been able to find it anywhere. It's not on Re-Listen. It's not on the Internet Archive. It might be on Nugs.
I was going to say, it might be on Nugs.
I don't think it's like a lost show to me, and I really want to find it because they did Slow Train, Taking Water, Set 1 closed with Thunder, the Robert Hunter written song. The encore was Crown of Thorns, that Mother Love Bone song that they do. It was just, we were getting ready, actually, that night, that next day, we were about to go out to Colorado in 2022 for Dead and Company. So I was like, I can squeeze in this I'll see what Billy Strings is all about.
Yeah.
I've been hearing people talk about him. Typically, I'm the type of guy that if everybody's talking about something and raving about something, I'm like, who cares? Right. But I was like, I could squeeze this in. A buddy of mine, Sam Lakey, was like, hey, I grabbed 2 tickets, if you want to go. So I was like, I'll see what it's about. Shit rocked my entire world.
Yeah, dude.
Like, unbelievable musician. Not just Billy, but his entire band. That 5-piece, they really are doing alchemy up there, like creating something totally mind-blowing every night.
You've never seen anything like that, even if you've been interested in bluegrass music and have seen other bluegrass or bands that are of that ilk. You have never seen anything like that. It's just an unbelievable show. Yeah.
It's like, I always heard people talking about Dead shows saying that the air pressure would change at times when they were like, Phil talks about in the Long Strange Trip documentary about how they could open the valve.
Yeah.
I think was the phrase he
Yeah,
used.
yeah, I love that quote.
Me too. And like there were times where Billy and his quintet open the valve, and you're like, oh, something like mystical is going on here. It's really, and there's something about like being from the Midwest. I have found that people on the coast or like the New York area, the California coast area, writ large, my experience, don't really get it in the same way. I have friends that were born and raised in LA, and they're like, yeah, it's great. I think he's great, and I think he's really talented. But I think there is something about being raised in the Midwest, in the South, over on the Eastern Seaboard, in the Carolinas, Virginia, that sort of thing, that type of music is so ingrained in how I grew up, how I was raised. It was all around me. That like sensibility of country music, bluegrass music. I heard it like probably some of the earliest music I heard in my life was at Silver Dollar City in Branson, which was like all like they'd just have random like bluegrass, quartets and quintets littered around the theme park.
Yeah.
So there is something, I don't know. I feel like when I talk to my friends that are from the Midwest or the South, they like really get Billy Strings in a way that others maybe don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There is something about that music that feels like home in a certain way. Like I mean, everyone in Wisconsin was listening to at a very general sense country music, but then yeah, there were so many different. I mean, like I saw Trampled by Turtles in Madison back when I was in college in 2010, and like that. Like
Yeah.
Madison was a town that was down for that kind of music. Like that show was packed out for that what that venue was, and
Yeah.
if Billy went and played Madison right now, he'd sell out the Kohl Center fucking 3 nights in a row. No problem. He'd probably play the football stadium if he wanted to. Like,
Yeah.
it's just it's a totally different level of show and musicianship, and it's like pushed forward in this way, but it's also deeply, deeply respectful. To it's pulling out parts of the music that you don't even know, even if you know the music, bluegrass music well.
Oh, the number of, I mean, half or more of his set lists are traditional bluegrass tunes, which is like has introduced me to so much going back and listening to old stuff, listening to, Steve Earle and that kind of even older than that. It's amazing. So yeah, that show, it's one of those where you leave and I was just shaking my head. I was like, man, that was so crazy.
Yeah, the amount of expression that his band puts forth too on all these different tunes. There's obviously like they open with Turmoil and Tinfoil, and they just kind of show their full power of how weird and how quick and how demented their show can get. But there are times where their show gets just so soft, so gentle, and sweet, and all of it is expressed so truthfully. It's not taken, none of it's taken like in a silly, even when he's like running around and spinning his hair in a circle and stuff, it's not like they are goofing off. This is a very serious fucking expression.
There is no pretense with that show. They're very reverent to the tradition. Like it is as stripped down as you can get at a big concert like that.
Yeah.
The venue I saw him at was pretty small. It's a new venue, but since he's done this arena tour, my gripe with this is I think bluegrass needs to be enjoyed outside. I think you need to feel the humidity when you're listening to bluegrass.
For sure.
So some of the arena shows that I've seen were obviously great Billy String shows, but I'm like, there's some je ne sais quoi that's missing from this show.
Yeah.
It's like I need to be sweating a little bit.
There shouldn't be a concourse.
Yeah. I don't want to be standing in the loge.
Yeah, no.
I want to feel the grass on my feet a little bit.
Exactly. Well, those are some excellent honorable mentions. Do you have a best show ever? It's hard to pick, but do you have a best show ever?
It's hard to pick. I do have a best show ever. It is July 3rd, 2023, Dead and Company at Folsom Field in Boulder.
Oh, shit, dude. Yeah. I mean, every time Dead and Co. went through Folsom, that felt to be like the highlight of the tour. But, man, that was pretty special.
The last time.
Very special.
Very special for a number of reasons. I want to make sure I tell this in the proper way. So three things that you should know, and these will all come back around, is I got into the Dead a little bit late, around 2017, 2018, when I first started discovering, and it coincided with when I started smoking weed, which also was late in life. Never did it in high school or college.
Good for you.
And haven't done it since that 3-year period. And now if I touch a joint, I'll call the cops. Like, it is, it makes me so scared. It makes me so scared. But it coincided at the same time, which I think is true of a lot of people. Anyhow, my buddy Steve was kind of my Sherpa, my Dead Sherpa, which I think everyone needs.
Yep.
Saying like, oh, you really like this 78 Samson and Delilah. Well, check out this version of it. Or have you heard anything from 74? You
need someone like that.
Kind of guiding you in a way through the music.
Big time.
So Steve has been my Sherpa, and he'll come back around. I have a tattoo standing on the moon.
Yeah, you do.
It's an astronaut. He's holding a sign that says home and putting his thumb out hitchhiking. And the writing around the bottom is a lovely view of heaven, but I'd rather be with you.
Yeah, man.
My mom drew this. It's my one tattoo that I have. And I thought, I want to get some lyrics, something. That was one Dead song that I really connected with, that I thought I'd put this on my body. So that's one piece. The second thing you got to know is Steve and I have this buddy Ethan. We knew each other in college at Mizzou, M-I-Z. Everybody says the OU. But we have similar tastes in music. We disagree on a lot. Steve hates Steely Dan, thinks they're too polished in his words.
Unbelievable.
But a couple things that we do agree on are Traffic. We love Steve Winwood's Traffic.
Yeah, dude.
And the Dave Matthews Band.
Come on.
We have spent a lot of time, Steve and Ethan particularly spent a lot of time together listening to DMB. They tell stories of when I was a bit younger, but they were starting off college, sitting in someone's, Buick LeSabre, smoking out of an apple, listening to Live at Central Park,
yes.
Dave Matthews. So that's kind of always run through the blood of our friendship, is talking about Dave, sharing jams with each other. And then the third thing you got to know is that probably my second favorite band after the Grateful Dead is the Band.
Yeah.
Love the Band. Love The Last Waltz. I've always loved their style of music. For a time, my Instagram handle was Levon Helm Fan Club.
It's still what I search when I look for your profile. Truly.
I changed it because people were getting pissed off. They were like, I'm trying to send you things and I can never remember what the fuck your handle is. And I would pretty often get tagged in things like, some music blog or something would be trying to post something about the band, and I would get tagged in it, which I did like. I'd be like,
all right.
Yeah, send me all the Levon content you got.
Please do. Yeah.
So we go to Boulder. We had gone to the St. Louis show that summer, and we had then caravaned up to Chicago, where Steve and his wife Sarah live. We did the 2 Wrigley shows after that, which I think Wrigley is the venue I've maybe seen Dead & Company the most at, 7 or 8 times.
I was going to say, it's definitely true for me. I saw them every time they came. Yeah.
Pretty much every time they went up there. And then, so that was in mid-June or early June. I forget how long the tour is. And then we had plans to go to Boulder, me, Steve, Sarah's friend Rose. We were going to stay with our buddy Eric Dude, real last name, Eric Dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
We were going to stay with him. Hell yeah, dude. We were going to stay with him just outside of Denver and kind of take the drives in. And we'd been talking to Ethan about it. Ethan's not a huge Deadhead. He enjoys the music, but he really loves yacht rock and cosmic country.
Okay.
He lives in that world a little bit,
Sure.
so he's a casual fan. But we do the first show, July 1st. Great show. We're with a bunch of Eric dudes, old law school buddies. They're kind of talking a little bit behind us. I was very polite. The second
We're all
night,
having a good time, right?
Hey, aren't we having fun?
Shut
You
the
guys having
fuck up.
fun? All right, cool. Shut the fuck up. Uh, Second night was great. We got a lot of good jams, and I think what was tempering this whole run was that this was going to be the last time we saw this band.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sphere hadn't been announced yet, was not even really a concept that was going to happen yet. There was kind of the running joke of like, oh, the final tour.
We knew there'd be something.
But I don't know. We knew there'd be something, but to me, this tour did feel different. It did feel like there was a finality to it in a big way. I don't know if it was just the way they were playing or the way it was kind of promoted or how everybody was kind of acting, but I did feel like, okay, I really do think this is probably the last time they'll do a big tour like this. And I also have to say a word to the Dead and Company detractors.
Mm-hmm.
The Dead and Slow crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You're well familiar with them.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's some validity to that. I think specifically in some of the mid-tempo, your Tennessee Jeds, your Ramble on Roses, they drag a little bit.
Sure.
But I think a lot of these people listened to Dead and Company in 2016, 2017, when they first started out and immediately wrote them off as like dead and slow, boring, bad. And I just have to say that, like, I was listening to the episode. I think you were talking to Mike at about Half Past Dead,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, and talking about how like the 2023 tour was really worlds apart from when that band first started with John. And I think there's a lot of things you can point to. I think one of them, I love Bill Kreutzmann. I love all the music he has given us over the years. Love him as a guy. But I think he was maybe not digging playing with that band at the end.
Sure.
He very like suddenly left for unbeknownst reasons. Health was a big part of it. I think he just probably couldn't tour to that level. But getting Jay Lane in that band totally transformed it, 100%.
Yeah, he's pretty, incredible, and it was noticeable that summer. Like,
it was noticeable, and I just think they, at that point, had spent more time together. So, I think if you are judging Dead and Company by who they were in 2016, 2017, that you really missed out on the band that they were in 2022 and 23. And I've heard that they're really great at the Sphere. I haven't listened to any of the recordings, but I hear that they're great still.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on the the growth from 2016 to 2023 when they hung it up from a touring sense. And man, even in some of the slower stuff that you would get out of them, you're missing. Yes, the song portion that you know so well is not as quick as you'd like it. It's not the tempo that you'd like it. But whatever they would find themselves in, that band just got better and better at finding incredible grooves and then just, playing them out in an incredible way. And then in 2023, they got so creative. I feel like people got a little upset about they knew that the set list was going to be parsed down. Like it was going to be a little bit a deeper, not as deep a bag song list wise, but they were doing so many cool things with the other one or Uncle John's band where they're starting and then bringing it back on the second night, and those are even things that they would repeat in different cities that had completely different characters and voices, and it felt fresh. It felt really fresh. I think of all of the Wrigley shows that I saw, if I were to rank all of the Wrigley Dead & Co shows that I saw, without a doubt, not even close, 1 and 2 are both of the shows I saw in 23. Like that's just
phenomenal.
Yeah, they're great.
They did that sugary they did the last time at Wrigley.
Boy,
I send that one for a spin very often.
And that's the other thing. I don't re-listen to a lot of Dead & Co. But 2023 shows, I've re-listened to the San Francisco ones that I went to and the Chicago ones that I went to a bunch.
Yeah.
I really have.
I throw it on in the car during the summer a lot because there's something about the hot, humid air and just the way the band sounded in those big stadiums, which, I've got my gripes about. Everyone has their gripes about, but that specific tone of like Bobby against John, Jeff, it's such a summer nostalgic feel to me at this point because, for the last 5 years before 2024, that's what I was doing was going and hitting those shows, 4 or 5 a summer. So it's very nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
And I think going into this last show, we were feeling nostalgic, emotional. It's going to be the last time we see these guys, realistically. And, so we wake up on the morning of July 3rd and we're kind of doing our pre-show thing. Because, these shows, most people stayed in Denver or Boulder in some way. But show day is a full day.
Yeah.
You get up early and you kind of got to get ripping early.
Yeah.
Especially up there in the mountains, start drinking water, all that stuff. Well, we get Steve and I get a text from Ethan. And it's a photo of a tarmac of an airport from inside the plane. And the caption says, "This isn't where I parked my car." A reference to Euro Trip, I believe.
Yeah.
But this was his way of telling us that he had flown in for the final night of Dead & Co. at Boulder. So we see this and we immediately freak out and we turn to Eric Dude, who we were staying with, and we're like, "Did you know this?" And they had coordinated on the back end that Ethan was going to come in and surprise us for the last show.
Love it.
Hang out with us. Super excited. Going to be super cool. So we just got that much more psyched for the last show to have Ethan there and to kind of experience that together. We go out and pick him up at his hotel and we're hanging out and, we get to, we're big time, show up to the lot early, get there as early as you can, when they open, start drinking beers, they have a shakedown that was down the block that we would go to.
Yeah.
But we get there early and, if you know Folsom, the east side of the stadium, when doors open, just cooks in the sun for hours. Because the sun is setting behind what are those called? Not the Blackstone Mountains.
We'll go with the mountains. I know.
Colorado people are screaming at their radios right now.
Dude. Midwest people.
Come on, you idiots. Midwestern assholes. So for 2 straight days, pretty much, we had cooked in the sun. And we were like, I don't think we can do a third, evening of getting cooked in that sun. So we went around to the west side of the stadium. And it was so much busier because the smart people know that that's where the shade sets first.
Right.
So we were the doors opened and then we just stood there for almost an hour maybe, trying to get in. Anticipation's building. We want to be in place when the band comes out. You don't want to miss a note of your last show.
I don't want to be stirring about at the beginning of the show. Nothing will make me an angrier, antsier guy.
Yeah, I want to be sat when they're coming out. So ultimately we did get in and the whole west side of the stadium, not a seat to be found. Yeah. Filled with asses or frustratingly people putting out lot bootleg t-shirts to save spaces and shit. And we're like,
come on, man.
So we go all the way around to the sunny side and we're like, well, this is what it is. We're going to cook in the sun for a couple hours and that's fine.
Yeah.
We were together, that was what mattered. So the band comes out and they launch into the first set, start with Bertha. Glad to get a Bertha on my last show.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Of course.
This is when they started having Bobby come in on the Dress Myself in Green verse. First time Bobby sings at any show, everybody goes nuts.
Oh yeah, man.
But it was a pretty pedestrian Bertha. Nothing to write home about. And then they drop into New Speedway Boogie.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Which is fun, a little bit of a mid-tempo thing, but everyone loves to hear New Speedway. It's kind of rare. It's relatively rare to hear a New Speedway Boogie. Yeah. And man, the groove they got into, back to what you were talking about with this 2023 tour of, on those mid-tempo songs, they could get into a groove that was unlike anything else. This New Speedway Boogie was groovy as hell. Yeah. They really found something like really stretched it out for a long time. And, somewhere starting around when the first set started, the clouds had come out, which is good for the heat, but is not good because it represents rain.
Yeah, a little ominous.
And up in the mountains, you see those dark clouds, and you're like, well, it's going to be a storm.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of, we were jamming, having fun, but really just in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want a rain delay for my last show. I want it to go perfectly. I want 2 tight little perfect sets. It's just getting darker and darker. The clouds are growing. It starts like kind of spitting piddly little rain a little bit. They're playing Jackstraw. They play Cold Rain and Snow. And it's like the darkest it's been, to that point. And the sun's not going down. It's dark clouds. They rip into Althea. And if you go back and you listen to this Althea, which I have done 1,000 times probably, you can hear there is a moment when John is really peaking the solo where the sun busted through the clouds.
Jeez.
And was shining brightly, and the clouds started like getting chased away up north. You can hear the crowd screaming, everybody going nuts because the sun, like, they're ripping and the sun busts through the clouds. Another reference to Mike in About Half Past Dead when he was talking about his Philly show and saw the double
rainbow scenario, yeah.
And he really believes that this band can change the weather, and that's kind of what people have always said about the Dead is the air pressure changes at points. This was a moment where I was like, absolutely, this band just changed the weather.
Yeah.
John Mayer and the boys brought out the sun from the clouds.
Yeah, so unbelievably sick. And there is magic around the Grateful Dead. You hear it in a cliche way, but then there's times you're like, dude, what was that about?
Truly.
What was that?
And like everybody reacting to it and like being lucid about what was going on and like recognizing that this happened at this time. And I mean, Althea, just in general, is probably John's best song.
Easily.
I would say.
Easily.
It's the one that introduced him to the Grateful Dead. He's got that story about sitting in his swimming pool and hearing a song. He was on Pandora, I think. Hearing a song and jumping up out of the pool to try to go see what it was.
Yeah.
And he looked at his phone and it was Althea, I think the studio version. So he's got a special connection to that song
classic
that I've always been able to feel. Yeah, classic John.
No, he does.
But ultimately,
he rips that song. He really does. And if you've seen Dead & Co., you more than likely saw them play Althea because they play it really well, and he destroys it. He really does.
His voice is great for it. I mean, there's a lot of those that he's great on. Yeah, but ultimately the rain did carry on, and they got into playing in the band. They got maybe 5 minutes into it, and then they kind of just stopped, and Bobby approaches the microphone and says, "Well, hell's bells, we've got a lightning alert." And then that was it, and the band walked off stage. Of course that's all he said, but we wanted him to say something like, those prevailing westerlies coming up over the mountains.
Right.
And then some fucking jamoke came out that was from the venue or something and was like, "All right, well, welcome to Colorado. It's this is the weather." Everybody starts booing this guy.
Fucking
poor guy.
Oh no.
His job was to tell, thousands of spun out wooks that the show was going to stop for a little while. But they shuffle everybody into the concourse, and then we quickly realized they weren't letting people back in.
Yeah.
Like if you went out in the concourse, they had to keep people back there to protect from the lightning. So I was like held my boys. I was like, don't go out there. Let's just sit in the rain for a little bit. So I sat in the rain, cleared up. They come back out. They pick up right where they left off. Doing a little playing in the band, goes into Uncle John's. They're playing with that for a while, and then they end it, and you kind of realize, okay, I think that's where the first set was going to end anyway. And then they all kind of look at each other, and it's da-da, da-da, and we're like, oh, fuck, help on the way.
Oh.
Which I learned later from Matt Bush. I don't know if it was on here or on another podcast where he said if there's a 3-night run, they would always do Help Slip Franklin's on the third night because giving Bobby a vocal rest, basically.
Yeah. A little help on the way for Bob.
Little help on the way. Anyway, all this goes on. It's a great second set. He's gone. The other one. During Drum Space, they had the drones come out.
Oh yeah, that was the first show they did that for. They didn't. Yeah,
that was the first show they did that. We kept kind of noticing this like hovering red light, and we kind of figured it was a drone, like maybe taking video or something. But then during Space, like you see all of them come up, and they form a stele. It's like 600 drones or something.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Had I still been on the weed, I would have been really amazed by that.
Yeah, right.
But for me, I was just like, oh, cool, nice.
Very sick. They pulled that off. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the show of the summer. That one right there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And, they, after Space, they go into Standing on the Moon.
Yeah, man.
Which.
Yeah.
That too. A song I'm very connected to. Steve and I are standing there. Yeah, we love the way Bobby does Standing on the Moon, the way he sings it. There's always so much emotion in his voice. He gets choked up at points, somewhere in San Francisco on a back porch in July. Steve and I are arm around each other, swaying back and forth, both of us fucking weeping.
Yeah, dude.
Crying. I'm thinking about my grandparents that passed in 2020. Like, I'm going through so much emotion in this moment. This is the last time I'm going to see this band.
Yeah.
This was with my buddies that introduced me to the dead. And at the end of Standing on the Moon, John comes up to the mic and he says, we'd like to bring up someone who is a big influence of mine, a friend of the band, a friend to all. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dave Matthews. We fucking went nuts. Jumping up and down, pushing each other. It was the most like straight white male thing I've ever partaken in. Was getting pants pissingly excited that Dave Matthews was there.
You almost lost your Birkenstocks, dude.
Almost lost my Birkenstocks. My fucking puka shell necklace got ripped off. But we were so excited, and it was so cosmic in a way because it was the three of us. We bonded over Dave Matthews, and he was coming out. He did All Along the Watchtower, and they did it in the Dave Matthews Band way.
I was going to say, they did it Dave style.
Which I've heard, I don't know where I've heard this. I think it was maybe O'Teal was talking about it on his podcast. But he said that Jay, for like days before that, you would walk past Jay like backstage and he would have headphones in. And he was just practicing how to do that song Dave style because he's like such a massive Dave Matthews fan and didn't want to mess that up. That no reason to get excited. Wow. Yeah.
I love the way Dave plays that song. He played it the first time I ever saw it, and it was like the highlight of the night, for sure.
I do too. And they did the Stairway to Heaven part of it, and it was beautiful. And the set with Not Fade Away, that's fun. And then they come out for the encore, and they launch into Knocking on Heaven's Door. And I just start crying again because I'm like, damn, what a good encore for my last ever show. It was something the first time I ever saw Bob Weir was Bobby and Wolf Brothers at the pageant.
Cool.
Years before that.
Very cool.
And they played Knocking on Heaven's Door. Amazing. So that's done. We think, okay, well, that's the show, right?
Yeah.
That's Knocking on Heaven's Door. That's got to be the end. You can't do anything after Knocking on Heaven's Door. And then they drop into The Wait. And I've just like have been crying for so many minutes.
Like, Jesus, like, dude.
Dude. It had been a thing for years where I was like, I want to hear him play The Wait. I love the band so much. I love this song so much. It just feels so significant to me. And to know that that was going to be like the last ever song that I heard that band play was so significant. So
I can't take
all
it.
in all,
Can't take it.
I know this is why this was the best show ever. It was very sentimental, very emotional. Was with my buddies. You know, everything felt very cosmic. It was one of those things. Not only with the weather, it felt kind of like on our side in a way, but of course a little prank in the middle. The rain's still gonna chase you away. But just to spend that last, 20, 30 minutes of the concert with all those songs in a row and Dave, and it was just overwhelming. So it was like a perfect little bow on that era of my life.
Yeah, man, such a treat. That whole summer felt like culminations of a bunch of different things. And that show, if you're there for that with your buddies who you've listened to very specifically, Grateful Dead, Dave Matthews Band, and the band together, and those kind of things are coming together. Yeah, I always say that every single time I saw Dead and Co., there was a story. There's an absolute story there. Just because there was just an added level of like, it's the Grateful Dead and it's Bob Weir and there's very heavy vibration stuff going on around that band still, even in Las Vegas, even at the Sphere, even still, but that tour was special. It was super special.
I really do count my blessings with every time I got to see Bob Weir.
Yeah.
I mean, just unbelievable. Has been doing it for straight up 60 years. Dropped out of high school to go on the road with the circus, essentially.
Yeah.
And has been doing it ever since. Like, it's just amazing. He's amazing.
He's another. I mean, he is. We talked about bona fide legends earlier. He is an absolute bona fide legend, and you talked about him pouring out every piece of him at these shows. He truly is. I mean, he still gives so much of himself. And you talked about the Sugary in that Chicago show. Right before that, there's a Good Lovin'. That if I listen to that song, I cry every single time I listen to that version of Good Lovin'. Because he's just
screaming. He's screaming.
Yeah, he's still that guy. He needs it so bad. Like he needs it so bad, and as much or more than any of us do. You know, he needs it, and that's so clear. And just to the fact that we're still able to watch that guy work is.
It's a blessing.
It's a blessing, and you're like taken into this other world. You're with him on those nights, like you're in his house. You know, it's fucking.
It feels like, you can hear the age on his voice. You can obviously see it on him, looking like fucking Gandalf.
But it works.
But it's still 17-year-old Bobby in a way.
It is.
Like he's still that guy. And my hot take that I've been shopping around and trying to get people to bite on is that the Sphere is actually, not musically, but conceptually, the closest thing they've done to the acid test. It's a hot take, but visuals going on, playing in front of it.
Listen,
there's something there.
I felt like when I left that place, I got programmed. So there's something there.
There's some surveillance something going on. Same thing with the drones.
I got programmed at the Sphere. Dude,
there's your bootleg shirt.
I got programmed at the Sphere. Dude, it's been excellent. I knew this was going to be an excellent talk. I just respect
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. I respect your take on music in such a way, and it was always great to that was one of those things of like, we didn't really talk about the Dead when we saw each other in Chicago, and then we'd see each other in tie-dyes at a show and be like, hey, dude, what the fuck? Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
But please plug what you're doing right now. Plug anything that you got coming up with Nightswimming. And,
for sure. Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. It was super fun. I love the show, and hopefully I'll see some folks out there on the road.
Oh yeah.
Nightswimming is a new music blog about new music. Nightswimming Music on Instagram, at Nightswimming Music on Instagram, and nightswimmingblog.substack.com on Substack. You can subscribe. Substack will ask you if you want to pay money. You can get it for free if you'd like. But it's every week on Thursdays, 7 a.m. I write about what came out the previous Friday. and it's full of good new music across genres, across different things. And every week I write about a Grateful Dead show of the week.
Still got it.
So I pull something random that still got it. Pull something random that happened in the last week and talk about, why it's great. And I think probably 98% of the people who read don't give a shit about it, but if some of you folks care about it, then that's why I keep writing it. So,
well, I love that you're writing it, dude. I love that you're lending your talents to that sort of writing. It's a cool world to be in the music world, and I think that there's more cataloging of it and more talking about it that can be done for sure. And so,
absolutely, who will listen to jam band studio albums if not me?
I gotta do it because you won't.
Exactly.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
If you're gonna put the hot dog in the lobby, anyway,
we're taking the dog back.
We're taking the dog back. Thank you so much for having me. Love the show. Love the community. And it was an honor.
Dude, of course. Great to have you. Great to have you. Okay, so that was my conversation with Caleb. Fantastic dude. Fantastic chat. Love talking about music with Caleb. Like I said, follow his Substack, subscribe to that, learn about new albums, new music that is coming out, and maybe pull your head out of your jam band ass every once in a while, learn about some new music. If you've been enjoying this podcast, if you liked this conversation, please consider liking and subscribing, doing all of that sort of stuff. If you listened on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video, all that kind of stuff helps with the algorithm of it all, helps everybody find the Best Show Ever podcast. But truly, guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Until next time, have a great show.